Welcome to the Real Estate 401k Show. Here are your hosts, Ryan Gerdes, Mike Weinstein, and Justin Frederick, helping you build a legacy of wealth through real estate. Powered by the Recon Group at West USA and the Frederick team with Fairway Mortgage. NMLS number 625918.
You know, Ryan, we're just seeing more and more of our podcast listeners and our clients call us and inquire about land. And land is becoming a thing because homes and whatever is getting really, really expensive. So people are wanting to buy land and, build on it or whatever the case is. We have a lot of listeners that own land out here in Arizona. And I would assume that this is probably the same for the rest of the country. But land fraud is becoming a huge deal and a huge problem. And so we wanted to bring on our expert. This is Bianca Lemmons. Bianca is our escrow officer. So when you buy and sell a house, you have to set up title and escrow. And Bianca is the one that makes us look good, helps us get to the finish line. She is with Fidelity National Title out here in Arizona. Bianca, welcome to the big show. You have now made it. You are on the big podcast.
Celebrity now.
I feel so honored. Thank you for having me here today. Wow.
All right, so you're so kind. Wonder what she says about us when we're not around.
She's gonna, as soon as she leaves the studio, she's like, these dummies.
I think it's more like dumbasses. I think that's what's probably rolling through her head. What is going on with land fraud? Walk us through what is happening. What are these scenarios that are going on, and then we're going to walk through some steps and some things that land owners can do to protect themselves. But walk us through a typical fraudulent land case that's going on right now.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right when you say that there's a lot of landowners out there, and we're seeing more and more land transactions because of the lack of shortage of housing. So basically what's happening is we've got fraudsters that are posing as the seller. And so basically people who own vacant land and non-owner occupied property also falls into this, where the fraudsters are stepping in and acting as the seller, and next thing you know, you no longer own your property. They've sold it from, out from underneath you.
But how are they doing that? If I'm a fraudster, and here's a piece of land, how am I selling it?
Well, in today's world, very seldom are we communicating face-to-face or on the phone. Everything is through technology, emails, texting. So how many times have you taken on a listing or sold a property where you didn't really have any face-to-face? They lived out of state, so everything was email, text messaging. Next thing you know, you've got a listing signed by who you think is the seller.
Right.
Because you've emailed everything, DocuSign. You don't even know a seller's true legal signature anymore because everything is DocuSign.
And now you can do remote online notaries, so you don't even need to have a stamp.
That's correct. However, there are precautions in place for those. But so basically what's happening is they're stepping in and posing as the seller.
They find an agent possibly to maybe even list it for them, right?
Absolutely. And a lot of the red flags is when you take a listing on vacant land, and one of the things that we look at it when it comes into escrow is it a cash transaction? Is the property listed for undervalue? And do we have a quick closing? Those are obvious red flags that we look at, and frankly that listing agents should be looking at as well, because they obviously want a quick cash sale and they want quick movement on it. So they're going to list it under value.
So what role does things like Zillow play into this? And I don't want to badmouth Zillow because I think that they have some really good stuff, but you can put anything that you want on Zillow. I can list your house on Zillow right now without your permission. And I mean, are you seeing it mostly through real estate agents, or are you seeing it through other sites like Zillow or Facebook Marketplace, or where are they primarily marketing these things?
Well, so I don't know as far as the marketing aspect, because obviously the majority of my business gets directed from realtors. So that's where where we're seeing this come from.
Poor soul. Your livelihood depends on us realtors.
And I thank you for it.
Yeah.
You pay my mortgage payment every month.
Oh, good.
But yes, I think the fraudsters really are staying under the radar in a sense. They're not really going to put themselves out there. They're gathering information from public records. I hate to say it, but title companies, as you know, for marketing, we provide lots of information for marketing tools. It's all public record. And so they're basically gathering access, and they're reaching out to realtors and saying, hey, I have this property to sell. Do you want to list it for me?
We are with Bianca Lemmons. She is with Fidelity National Title. We are talking about vacant land fraud. If you're looking at buying land, selling land, or wanting to know if you've possibly been victimized by land fraud, you can feel free to reach out to us by texting the word land to 623-AZ-RECON. That's land to 623-AZ-RECON. How serious or how prevalent is this problem right now? And I'm talking to now people who own land and they're listening to this, it's not going to happen to me. How big of a deal is it right now?
Very big deal. We've been very fortunate. We've only taken in a few claims, and we'll talk about this, how this works here in maybe a little bit, but it is a big problem right now. And my advice, if you own land or even non-owner occupied property, the best thing as a property owner you can do is periodically go on to the county website and check to make sure that there has not been a deed recorded on your property. And Maricopa County now offers a program where you can actually register your parcel for an alert. Now, you're probably thinking, okay, well, that's great. I'm going to be alerted that my property has transferred to somebody else, but better to know sooner than a year later when you don't get your tax bill and you're wondering why you didn't get your tax bill. So, but it is a big problem, and there's been many title companies that unfortunately have taken some pretty large losses because of these vacant land fraudulent transactions.
Scams. Yep.
Yep. Because it's very hard to detect, but at the same time, I encourage you to work with a title company that is providing continuing education on this, because we really need to recognize the red flags and really do what we can to hopefully avoid.
So obviously, I hope none of our viewers or listeners have experienced this. But let's say I wake up tomorrow and my land is no longer in my name. And what now? What do I do?
I think your first step is call your local police authority.
Okay.
That would be your first step to report the fraudulent transaction. Call your title company. Call the title company or a real estate agent that you work with, that you have a connection with. Do some quick research. Make sure that truly a fraudulent deed did record. And your next step would be to probably reach out to your title company who insured your transaction when you bought it. Believe it or not, your policy guarantees you against forgery.
Even so, I know that the title company who actually transferred, property from scammer over to new buyer, there's liability there for sure.
Correct.
But the title company that I actually transacted through, like our property over there on 19th and Happy Valley, if somebody were to scam that property over to somebody else, then you guys would still be involved?
Absolutely.
Okay, wow.
So then let's jump into it. Then what should a property owner do if they think, and continue the conversation, if they think they're a victim of vacant land fraud? How do they find out the details if let's say I'm the landowner, it was fraudulently sold to somebody else? How do I find out the details of the transaction? Who was the title company? Who were there possibly real estate agents involved? What do I do?
So if you look at recorded deeds on the county level, if it went through a title company, it's going to have a stamp with the title company's name on that recorded deed. So right there, that would be your first outreach to find out the title company name from that recorded deed and immediately call them and, say, hey, I was the owner of this, I was the seller of this property, and they'll probably ask you some questions to make sure that you really are who you are in order to discuss the details.
The first round of questions they should have asked, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, now, what if they were smart and they went straight to the county assessor and then just brought falsified passports or documents in order to get it pushed through. What would we do in that type of scenario?
Well, that's unfortunate because obviously the buyer who bought the property from that fraudulent seller probably should have insisted that they went through a title company. But there are people that do for sale by owners that don't go through a title company, and they do things based on a handshake. I don't recommend it, but so basically at that point in time, the current owner, the real true seller, should go to the title company that insured them, and again, law enforcement, and address it.
And I would say, because in our world, in something like this, one of my first responses would be if somebody texts the word land to 623 AZ Recon and they thought they were a victim of land fraud, was you need to talk to our real estate attorney.
Yes.
I mean, you're now going down a possibly long legal battle.
Yes.
And you have to have a legal representation, I would say.
Absolutely. However, under your title insurance policy, we will defend you
Okay.
in court. That is what your policy covers you.
All right. If you are think you're a victim of land fraud, or you're just interested in land, whether it's buying land, selling land, we'd love to have a conversation with you. All you got to do is text the word land to 623 AZ Recon. That's land to 623 AZ Recon. Now, for us at the Recon Group, we know that there's just a ton of title companies and escrow companies out there. And so we went through a long process. We're very, very selective, and Fidelity does a lot of amazing stuff for us. But part of the reason that we're with Fidelity is because of your guys' bandwidth, customer service, but more importantly, just your knowledge of these complicated situations and being on the forefront of getting people educated. But so can you jump in a little bit more specifically about what Fidelity National Title is doing to protect clients right now?
Absolutely. Yeah. So first of all, education from the company is valuable, because obviously it's always in the forefront for us to always be a reminder that we need to have our eyes and ears opened on these on all transactions, frankly. But bottom line is, when a vacant land transaction comes in, or a non-owner occupied transaction, first thing we're doing when we're opening escrows, we're checking the county website to see where the tax bill gets mailed to. If it's not getting mailed to the property address, that's our first sign of defense. We automatically send out a letter.
Back up there. Why would somebody have mail sent to vacant land?
Well, they wouldn't. But we're also, this fraud scheme is also for non-owner occupied residential property. So
Okay,
it's
I
not.
follow.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's not specifically just for vacant land.
Got it.
So if it's non-owner occupied residential property, we're going to make sure that we're sending out a letter to the seller of record on the county website.
Okay.
And basically that's a fraud alert letter that we send out to the seller, basically telling them that, hey, we have been informed that you are selling your property. This is a fraud protection letter. Please call us immediately at this number to confirm whether you are or aren't selling your property.
Now, this is a loaded question. We didn't even rehearse this question. Taking a look at down the road, are there conversations with regarding, with the advancement of technology and alerts? I know Maricopa County's got that alert system, but you get that alert after the fact. Is there some sort of software or database that's possibly being developed or could be developed where all title companies can go to and everybody can go to verify who I'm talking with is the owner of it, and so that I might even somehow get alerted prior to a close?
Well, so that's where we rely solely on our notaries. It really, we can do as much research and much digging as possible to make sure we're dealing with the actual seller, but it isn't until it gets down to closing and we're relying on that notary to verify that that seller really is that seller. Now, obviously, some of these fraudsters, they all have fake ID.
Right.
But again, if we have all the red flags and the notary comes back with the notarized documents, we're still going to probably require some sort of face-to-face interaction, whether it be a Zoom call or a team call with the actual seller, where we want to see them face-to-face
That's
and
smart.
verify their ID.
Well, I would say this. I know we all get frustrated as buyers and sellers when we are selling or buying a property and the title company requires us to fill out all of this lengthy information. It's for your protection.
It is. Thank you for bringing that up. We truly don't want to be nosy. We really just want to make sure that we are dealing with who we're dealing with. And especially in today's world with email phishing and all these other types of fraudulent schemes out there, I'm sorry that you're going to have to create a password to access our secure portal, to fill out all this confidential information, but truly it's just for everybody's protection.
Sure.
All right, Bianca Lemmons with Fidelity National Title. Thank you for jumping on the big show. We have been talking about vacant land fraud. If you are interested in acquiring land, selling land, or learning more about land fraud, we encourage you to reach out to us by texting the word land to 623-AZ-RECON. That's land to 623-AZ-RECON.
Thank you for joining us on the Real Estate 401k Show. If you want more information on how to build wealth, click on the link or text us at 623-297-3266. That's 623-AZ-RECON.